So let's generate our motivation. In the Manjushri chant, there's a line of being that we are bound or imprisoned, trapped in the iron net of our karma. So the deeds that we have done in previous lives, their seeds are on our mind stream. And although we want happiness and not suffering, when the seeds of our destructive actions are fertilized, when the conditions come about for them to ripen, they do, and we experience suffering. So right now in the Middle East, in Ukraine and Russia, there's a lot of very open suffering. In other places in the world there is as well. And this is all due to the people born there, their previous life's karma, which is rooted in the grasping at true existence. So then we might wonder, why am I not also born there? Because we have no idea what karma we created in the past. There may be seeds to live in a war zone, those kinds of seeds in our mind stream, but they just haven't met the conditions to ripen yet. But let's try and stretch our minds so it's not just about whether I'm born in a war zone or whether other people are born there. Thank goodness it's them, not me. Instead of having that kind of attitude, let's remember that suffering is suffering. It doesn't really matter whose it is. And so, as best as we can, to oppose suffering wherever its sprouts appear. So that may be by doing something actively, or it also may be by really engaging in our practice with more energy and more sincerity. Because as we can practice better and slowly transform our mind into a mind of Dharma, then we will be able to be of more effective benefit to others than we are now when our minds are just racked with ignorance, anger, and attachment. So knowing that we have that potential and that the beings caught in these situations right now, no matter which side of a war they're on, that everybody has that potential to become a Buddha. Everybody is worthwhile. Everyone is to be respected. That doesn't mean we follow the ideas of anyone and everyone, but we can still respect people, although they have ideas that we don't agree with. So let's continue on with our practice, and as much as we can, just within the realm of people that we all encounter, to try and create peace in this chaotic world. So with that mind of great compassion, with the bodhicitta aspiration, then we'll listen and discuss and contemplate the Buddha's teachings on the path to awakening. Okay, so of the four seals, we did that all conditioned phenomena are impermanent. We got through the first one. And so the second one, that all polluted or contaminated phenomena are in the nature of dukkha. So that's the one we're on. And that one, well, all of these involve some change in our mind to really understand, like, how is this in the nature of dukkha? Yeah? I mean, we're here with a group of friends, we're safe, we had a good breakfast. How is this in the nature of dukkha? So this is what we really need to explore. And part of the thing is that although at any particular moment in our life things may be going well, whatever well means, they could change like that, according to what karma ripens. And so this kind of thing happens all the time, doesn't it? Yeah, things are going along, and then some small incident, and so many things kind of cascade and change. Yeah. And what really reminds me of this is, how World War I broke out. Because there was Prince, one Archibald, somebody or another, from one of the areas in the former Yugoslavia. I think it was him. Anyway, some big guy was, in a parade, riding in his carriage, and he was assassinated. And that was the camel that broke the straw's back and started World War I. One incident. So of course things had been building up for a time, but all you need is one thing like that, yeah? And so it is with us, not just on, the level of countries and so on, but also in our own personal life. Things are going well, and then there's a car accident, and your whole life changes. You have to adopt to, now whatever physical ailment you have because of the car accident, or whatever legal problems you have because you rammed into somebody else. Okay, so it just takes one small thing. So when we talk about, the third kind of dukkha, when this one over here is still happy, smile, yeah, don't worry, I like you because you're smiling, so you don't have to worry about it. You too? Oh, you're not smiling, oh my goodness, come on, people pleasers always smile. You can do it, no, up, not down. You're getting there. That we're walking along the edge of a cliff all the time. And all it takes is a small bit of wind to push us over the side, okay? And so when we talk about the third kind of dukkha, it's referring to that we are under the control of afflictions and karma, and we're caught in the iron nets of our karma. And we don't know even what those iron nets are. We can't remember what we did in a previous life. But, those things, unless we purify, will bring effects, and we will be the one experiencing the effects. Okay, so to see, when we think about this motivates us to practice. When we think about other living beings being in the same situation, then we have more compassion for them, and why they sometimes do the crazy things they do, even though everything we do is not crazy, is it? Yeah, right? Yeah, yeah. Other people do crazy things to be happy and stop their suffering. We're completely consistent, mild-mannered, very thoughtful and wise, right? Yeah? So we can have compassion for all those poor slobs who, unlike the great practitioners we are on that edge. Yeah? And this shows how deep our obscurations are, that we can't see that we're in the same situation as everybody else, but hold ourselves special. Because we are special, aren't we? Yeah. Yeah, my happiness is the most important thing. My suffering hurts more than anybody else's. Yeah, if the whole world only finally realized that. Yeah. Not that I'm not advocating that they realize emptiness and cut the root of all these afflictions. I'm just hoping that they realize that I'm the most important one and my suffering hurts more than anybody else's. Right? And do you have that same thought somewhere in your own mind? Some people are honest. Some people are looking at me like, you don't know me well. I really am above and beyond that. Right? Yeah. Your arrogance shows that. Okay. So here we are. Let's see. I can't just put page 23 because it doesn't go to page 23. It goes somewhere else. Yeah, this one says 22. Over there, it's 27. Where's 23? Oh, okay, it's up here. All contaminated or polluted phenomena are unsatisfactory, are in the nature of dukkha. Okay. Usually, the usual translation was contaminated. When I did the Library of Wisdom and Compassion, I changed it to polluted. Yeah? Because in our day and age, we don't talk as so much about contamination. We talk more about pollution and the deadliness of pollution. And so to see the pollution in our own mind streams and the effect of internal pollution, not just the external pollution. Okay, so the second axiom states that all polluted phenomena, so all polluted things and events, are unsatisfactory, meaning that they are all in the nature of dukkha. According to Buddhism, there are 3 levels of dukkha. The first level of dukkha includes the obvious physical and mental sensations of pain and discomfort that we can easily identify as gross pain or suffering. This kind of dukkha is primarily at the sensory level, mental suffering, at that level, or physical suffering. How many people have had more physical suffering in their life than mental life suffering? How many people have had more mental suffering than physical suffering? Interesting, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. And mental suffering, where is it? Yeah. What is it? When your mind is unhappy, sit there and go, how do I know I'm unhappy? What are the symptoms of mental unhappiness? Explore that. And are those symptoms unhappiness itself? Okay. And where did those, whatever it is that are your symptoms of feeling unhappy, what are they really? And what is that unhappiness really? Okay, the second level of dukkha is the dukkha of change. Although certain experiences or sensations may seem pleasurable and desirable now, within them, as part of their nature, is the potential for culminating in an unsatisfactory experience. Okay, so anything we do that brings pleasure, if you just do it again and again and again and again without any breaks, instead of being increasingly pleasurable, it becomes increasingly painful. Okay, so they always use eating as an example. When you're hungry, when you first start to eat, there's a real feeling of pleasure. But at a certain point in your eating, if you keep eating, it becomes quite uncomfortable. Yeah, so the point there is that food does not have happiness inherent in it. And just getting what we want, it isn't by its nature joyful because we don't experience continued pleasure from it. Okay. Now, they always use, the example of eating. That's one everybody can understand. I like to use the one of falling in love. Okay. I think everybody's fallen in love. Yeah? Yeah? Hello? Yeah. Mm. Yeah. And, your mind is like, I feel so wonderful when I'm around this person. Somebody cares about me. It's just wonderful. I feel so supported. This is going to last forever, and with increasing happiness, we're going to be one of those couples that have been married for 200 years and still idolize each other. Yeah, they'll interview us in People magazine. So, now the thing is, you always want to be with that person. So, let's do another thought experiment. You are chained, your wrist is chained to that person's wrist. So everywhere you go, they come with you. Okay? How is it going to be perpetual bliss? How long is it going to take before you scream, get me out of here. I want to be alone. I want my own space. Yeah? So if, being in love, if that person, were the source of real happiness, true happiness, we should want to be chained to them forever and ever. No? You thought, yeah, I know. You did that for a long time. You were there with him in the U.S., in Mexico, all over the workplace, and we're sitting here at the Abbey waiting for her to come. Because we know, by our lack of clairvoyance, we know by that lack that she will eventually come to her senses and get here. But it took a while, yeah. And then he, of course, wrote me a letter. Yeah, you took her away from me. The person that I knew that I loved so much now isn't the same. Don't you go back to him. You're here now. Your iron chains of karma are with the Sangha. Yes. Okay. Another way of saying this is that experiences do not last forever. Desirable experiences will eventually be replaced by a neutral experience or an undesirable experience. If it were not the case that desirable experiences are in the nature of change, then once having had a happy experience, we would remain happy forever. That was what the fairy tales told me. Were the fairy tales not true? No? But they told them to me, and they've been told throughout history. And I was just waiting for that guy on that white horse to show up. Yeah? We had a few imposters. Yeah, but that's just because they were ordinary sentient beings. Yeah, Buddha boy. Yeah, because he's perfect, meaning he does everything I want. That's the definition of perfection, isn't it? When somebody does everything I want. Glad we have that clear. In fact, the more we pursue these experiences, the greater our level of disillusionment, dissatisfaction, and unhappiness becomes. Now you're going to say, okay, we'll take her example. Yeah, I renounced him. I'm off to the Abbey. Now I'm going to cut my hair. I'm going to ordain. I'm going to wear these golden robes, and now I am going to be happy forever because I got rid of all my attachments. I saw the disadvantages of my attachment. I'm ordained. I got rid of them. Now, happiness forever in the monastery. Wait a minute. Okay, let's ask for some real life experience here. Who has experienced happiness forever here? Oh, you don't think the kiddies have? No? Oh, yeah, that's why she pees in your shoe. She's unhappy. Yeah. Okay. So why is it? You renounce. I'm free. You think you've renounced. Yeah, you think you've renounced. No more samsara for me. I'm done with ignorance, anger, and attachment. I have a new hairdo to prove it. Yeah, and now I'm going to live happily ever after. Okay, glad we got that one clear. No more complaining here. You're living happily ever after, so don't complain that, somebody didn't do their chores and you have to do it. Yeah. Just remind them that they should transform their minds so they enjoy doing chores. Yes. Yeah. We help each other and remember to practice, don't we? Yeah. You have to do my chores because I flaked out? Oh, poor you. Here's the thought training teachings. Practice. That's what we do, isn't it? Okay, the third level of dukkha is the most significant, the dukkha of conditionality. This refers to the fact that our unenlightened existence, the fact that we are ruled by negative emotions and their underlying root causes, namely our own fundamental ignorance of the nature of reality. According to Buddhism, as long as we are under the control or influence of this fundamental ignorance, we are in an unsatisfactory experience. This is dukkha. This unenlightened existence is dukkha by its very nature. This is important, okay? Samsara is never going to be happiness. Okay, because the very nature of samsara is we're under the effect of afflictions and karma. So true, lasting happiness is never going to come about in samsara. Okay, we may have little breaks, from abject misery. Yeah, but this is never going to be a perfect world. Yeah, the wars are never going to stop. Yeah, the conflict, the betrayal of trust, poverty, natural disasters, these things are not going to stop in this world. Okay? Because for them to stop, the minds of every single being in this world would have to realize the emptiness of inherent existence, abandon ignorance, anger, and attachment, develop great compassion for everybody else. Yeah, and do you think that's going to happen here? Yeah, this is why we want to be reborn in a pure land, okay? This is why we want to be, why we renounce samsara. We're renouncing the dukkha of samsara because it's never, samsara is not going to change. We can change. Yeah, we can change. But the condition of being under ignorance, anger, and clinging attachment, that only changes on an individual basis, one by one by one. Okay? We cannot legislate it. We cannot put forth a UN resolution. Yeah. Oh, we've done that already. Yeah. Christmas is coming up where everybody wishes for peace on earth except for their enemies. Okay? So this is, when we talk about renouncing samsara, it's because we've realized that a state of having an ignorant mind, not the world, but our own personal ignorant mind, is the source of our own misery. And so we want to develop wisdom, get ourselves out of this condition. And then when we look and we see everybody else is in the same condition, we have compassion, aspire for Buddhahood, and want to get everybody else out. Okay, so it's not a question of how it is, legislation, redistribution of wealth, all these things. These may make situations temporarily better, which, yes, any way we can reduce suffering, we want to do. But in our mind, don't hold out that these kinds of changes are going to bring ultimate lasting happiness. Because even if they could, all of our Christmas wishes, may there be peace on earth, all of a sudden there is, okay? Nobody fights in their family anymore. Yeah, no more divorces, no more child abuse, none of that anymore. Okay. Still, even if that happened, we still face aging, sickness, and death. We aren't free of that. So as long as we face aging, sickness, and death, things are unsatisfactory, aren't they? Yeah. We say, oh, but I'm going to be a joyful old hag. I've learned from watching my parents and other people, I'm not going to complain. Who said that? Who are you saying you don't believe I'm not going to complain? I'm complaint free as long as I'm asleep. Okay. But, as nobody wants to get old, nobody wants to get sick, nobody wants to die. Yeah? So even if we could make the external situation perfect, yeah, even if we could solve all of our mental problems, we're still faced with aging, sickness, and death, and that is unsatisfactory. That is not something where everybody gets, oh, good, I'm going to age. But I must tell you, there are some benefits from aging. Let me think of what they are. You are a little bit smarter, hopefully, than you were before. Yeah, a little bit smarter. And you don't have as much energy to fight as you did before. Yeah, you have to conserve your energy for more important things than arguing with other people. So there's some benefits. Yeah. Yeah, and you get Medicare. So hopefully that will continue. We don't know now. So when we talk about the first principle aspect of the path of renunciation, we want to be free of this, not the external situation, but of the internal situation that causes the external one to be the way it is. And that means changing what's in here. Yeah. Whatever we can do to alleviate the suffering in the world, we do, but we have to work on our minds. Yeah. Otherwise, and This is I think, maybe some of the problem of some activists, is that you are so focused on these people, these other people doing harmful, horrible things that cause trauma and suffering, that you just can't stand them because they're your enemy, because look how much harm they're causing in the world. Yeah. Well, when you think like that, your mind is exactly like their mind. What I think is best, and suffering comes from somebody else. Mm-hmm. Are you getting what I'm saying? Yeah. So I always tell the story of my Vietnam War days of protesting, and how this came so brilliant to me. So I was at UCLA, and this was before the recent protests there. Yeah, I'm a little older than those kids. Yeah. So anyway, we were protesting the war, and we were kind of lined up on the field in rows, and the cops, that's the polite name, we called them pigs. You didn't know that? Yeah, that's what we called them. The pigs were lined up there with their helmets and shields and everything like that. And we're screaming something, because they represent, they were just doing their job, but to us, they represented the people sending, brothers, sisters, selves to Vietnam to fight a stupid, ridiculous war. And the guy next to me picked up, it was either a brick or a big stone, and he threw it across the distance between us, threw it at the pigs. And my mind just went, no, that's not the way. Yeah, because then your mind becomes exactly like the mind of the people that you're protesting against. Yeah. I'm right, you're wrong, you have to change. My anger will make you change. Right. How often has other people's anger made you change? You might have changed your external behavior when your parents were mad at you, but did you change your internal thought? Yeah. So, so renunciation in Buddhism is wanting to be free from the whole mess. Yeah, the whole mess. And this is the first of the three principal aspects of the path. So we need to pay attention to it, not skip over it. In the West, emptiness. Yeah, I want to hear about emptiness. That's exotic and mystical. I want to hear about concentration because I want the bliss. And I want to hear about bodhicitta because then I love everybody. But I don't want to hear about impermanence and dukkha and death and dissatisfaction. That just makes me depressed. Yeah, I want light and love and bliss. So many people come to the Dharma like that, and many people think, no, I'm a very serious practitioner. I'm not looking for light, love, and bliss. So they ordain and they live happily ever after at the Abbey. Look at all of them around you as they're sitting here. Don't they look like everlasting bliss? Oh, I'm still sitting next to you. you, and you. Okay. The dukkha referred to by the second axiom is the third level, the pervasive dukkha that is the very nature of our conditioned existence. It is pervasive since all our actions are currently performed in ignorance of the true nature of phenomena, and therefore the results of these actions, our experiences, are all caused by and remain under the control of karma and mental afflictions. So polluted here simply describes the products of karma and mental afflictions. Yeah. So it's not like when we have a little bit of happiness, the afflictions are gone, the karma's gone. Here it may be helpful to reflect on a few passages from the scriptures. In the Sutra on the 10 Grounds, the Buddha made the following statement: the entire world of 3 realms is nothing but the mind. Okay. So the mind only, or Chittamatra school of Buddhism, interprets this passage to mean that the external material world that we perceive is nothing but an illusion, a projection of our mind. However, other schools understand this statement very differently. For example, in interpreting this statement, Chandrakirti, our hero, writes the following in his supplement to the Middle Way: failing to see person and so on, which are asserted by the non-Buddhists in their own treatises. Yeah, in other words, an Atman, failing to see the Atman as, the afflictions, as being the creator. The conqueror taught that mind alone is the creator. Okay? So, failing to see that our afflictions are what create our reality. Yeah. The Buddha, in order to try and get through to those people who couldn't see that, said that the mind alone is the creator. He didn't mean that, the Chittamantras interpret that to mean that the appearance of external phenomena is illusory, because they are actually caused by the same karmic latency as our perceiving mind. Yeah, they had a quite interesting philosophy that Chandrakirti refuted. Chandrakirti understands the Buddha's statement that the entire world, the natural environment, and the beings within it is created by the mind to be a rejection of the concept of an independent, absolute divine creator. Okay? So the way the Chittamatra people interpreted it wasn't what Chandrakirti said the Buddha really meant. That, he's, the Buddha is, when he said that the entire world of the 3 realms is nothing but the mind, that he was actually refuting an external divine creator, yeah, as asserted by, most of the non-Buddhist schools. Yeah, whether they assert one God or many gods, every culture has this story of how somebody else created the world and somebody else created us. Or if it isn't somebody else, there's one omniscient mind, or maybe the mind's not even omniscient. There's just one big mind and we're all chips off the old block. People, have that idea, and then when you die, you just blend back into the one mind and live happily ever after. People have some schools have this idea that everything is created out of one substance, yeah? And so there's just one big amorphous substance, and then all the physical things, and including living beings and our bodies and the world, is created from that substance. Yeah. So, there were ancient Indian schools with this kind of philosophy. Yeah, see, they're Oh, there we go. Okay. True happiness. Thank you. It will never end until next time it blows out. Okay. Yeah. So, just look at the religious philosophies, that are present in this world of the major religions. Look in the New Age newspaper at the philosophies of how people, what is the source of our misery in this world. Look at, what does science trace the source of misery to? Yeah, it's something in chemistry. We just have to change the chemistry in the body, and then nobody will get angry, and nobody will die, and yeah. What do you think? Walt Disney thought that sounded good, so he had his whole body, what is it, cryogenics, yes. So he's frozen somewhere, Walt Disney. Yeah, whole body frozen somewhere, waiting for science to solve the problem of mortality and bring him back to life. Yeah, because he is his brain. Yeah, and he may be brain dead now, but when the brain functions again, then he will be here. What do you think? Yeah. Okay. So a lot of what the ancient Indian sages are doing is looking at the philosophies in their culture and refuting the wrong ideas, because there was a very vibrant exchange between different spiritual traditions during the Buddhist time and for, a millennia after that. Okay. So, Chandrakirti understands the Buddha's statement that the entire world, the natural environment and the beings within it, is created by the mind to be a rejection of the concept of an independent, absolute, divine creator, like all the theistic religions assert. Even so, there's still a sense in which Chandrakirti's own middle way school does not accept that the entire universe is created by the mind. Yeah? In other words, it's not just the mind. There's other systems of cause and effect too. Mm-hmm. How should we understand this idea? If we trace the origin of our present physical body, we can follow its material continuum back to the beginning of the universe. Yeah, you think your body's unique? Hey, trace all the atoms and molecules and the electrons and neutrons and protons and particles that they haven't even discovered yet. Trace them all back to the Big Bang. Yeah, nothing in our body is unique, is me, okay, is created by an external being. Okay, if we trace the origin of our present physical body, we can follow its material continuum back to the beginning of the universe. That is to say, we can discern through modern science that the matter that comprises our body all originated with the Big Bang. Do you think it originated with the Big Bang and before that there was nothing? So out of nothing you got the Big Bang and the creation of the universe? Is that possible, that nothing can create something? No. So there's something before the Big Bang. Okay, but from the point of view of traditional Buddhist cosmology, the continuum of our material body extends even beyond the beginning of the material universe to a time when the universe was empty and remained in the state of what the Kalachakra Tantra refers to as space particles. These space particles are not absolute or fixed, but are rather subject, like all matter, to the laws of impermanence and change. So now you believe that. Space particles? Yeah, study the Kalachakra Tantra. If we look at the purely material level of atoms or particles, we can ask, what is it in the process of the evolution of the physical universe through the aggregation of particles and atoms that cause the universe to become directly relevant to the experience of suffering and happiness by sentient beings? So what is it in just the material world that made it relative to the happiness and suffering of sentient beings? From the Buddhist perspective, this is where karma enters the picture. Karma refers to the actions undertaken with intention. And given that the entire development of our unenlightened existence is a consequence of our unenlightened state of mind, in the final analysis, the mind is the creator of our entire existence. Karma is what fuels the whole evolution of an individual's existence in samsara. Okay, so in order for there to be the sentient beings who experience pleasure and suffering, there has to be consciousness, the consciousness of sentient beings. And that consciousness has to have created the cause for having those experiences of happiness or suffering. And so this is where karma comes in. Karma is our actions. It leaves seeds in our mind that when they meet the proper conditions, ripen into our experience. Although there are physical and verbal karmic actions, karma is primarily a mental event. That's because the thoughts, the intention is a mental event. And the physical and verbal actions, we don't talk, we don't move our body unless the mind has moved first and there's an intention. Okay, that's what it's getting at. Okay, so karma is primarily a mental event. There are physical and verbal karmas too, but they all stem from the mind. Karmic acts are motivated by and rooted in mental afflictions, which in turn are rooted in the fundamental ignorance, namely the erroneous belief in the enduring self-existence of things. Furthermore, it is an aspect of the law of causality that the character of the effects must correspond to the character of the causes. That means that happiness comes from virtuous causes, unhappiness comes from non-virtuous causes. There must be a correspondence. If you act virtue, it's not going to bring unhappiness in the future. If you create non-virtue, it's not going to bring happiness in the future. There has to be a correspondence. Daisies produce daisy seeds. Yeah? If you want chili peppers, don't plant daisy seeds. Plant chili pepper seeds, and you will get them. Okay? As you turn into a dragon breathing fire. Yeah. With all your chili pepper. So karma is what fuels the whole evolution of an individual's existence in samsara. Furthermore, there is an aspect of the law of causality, yes, that there's a correspondence between causes and effects. Consequently, all experiences and events caused by an undisciplined state of mind, that is, as a result of karmic actions and mental afflictions, are in the final analysis polluted. Yeah, they're polluted by ignorance. They're polluted by this misapprehension of reality. An action such as making offerings to the Buddha may be positive from a conventional point of view, but until we have overcome ignorance through the direct realization of emptiness, that action is still polluted and in the nature of dukkha. Yeah, that one's hard to hear because we work so hard to create virtue, and yet it's still a cause of samsara. It's a cause of happiness in samsara, but it's still a cause of samsara. And that's what it's saying. That's why this wisdom realizing emptiness is so important, to cut the samsara. There is an intimate relationship of inference between these first two axioms of Buddhism. One, that all conditioned phenomena are impermanent, and two, that all contaminated or polluted phenomena are unsatisfactory. So we can infer the second axiom from the first. So we can infer that polluted phenomena are unsatisfactory by knowing that all conditioned phenomena are impermanent. Yeah, because by the very fact that our happiness is impermanent, then things are in the nature of dukkha. Yeah, the happiness doesn't last. Okay, so in the case of, the statement in the first axiom that all composite phenomena are impermanent implies that as long as a thing is the product of other causes and conditions, yeah, then it is under the control of factors other than itself. In the case of polluted phenomena in the second axiom, the implication is that they are products of and therefore under the control of mental afflictions, which arise from our fundamental ignorance. So the first axiom explains causality, yeah, that every conditioned phenomena is impermanent, so it will cease, meaning it will produce a result. It explains causality, while the second axiom explains the causal process of unenlightened existence. In other words, things may be impermanent, but because we're under the influence of karma and afflictions, they're the whole kit and caboodle is unsatisfactory. Okay, now the third axiom. All things and events are empty or devoid of self-existence. Anatman. The third axiom states that all phenomena, all things and events are empty or devoid of self-existence. That is, they lack inherent reality. This is the traditional understanding of the Mahayana Buddhist concept of emptiness, which we have been examining at length throughout this book, and which is the key theme of the Heart Sutra. And as we will get into the Heart Sutra more and more in January, we will get into understanding how that happens. We may summarize the previous discussion as follows. All phenomena, including the so-called self, lack inherent existence. However, because of the fundamental ignorance, we ascribe inherent existence to them. This fundamental ignorance is thus not a state of mere unknowing. Rather, it is an active state of misknowing, that is, misapprehension. In this state of delusion or confusion, we mistakenly perceive things contrary to the way they really are. The more one understands the truth about the nature of reality, the weaker the force of this ignorance becomes. And as the nature of reality becomes more apparent, the realization that this ignorance is erroneous becomes stronger as well. Right now, I don't know about you, but I can read this, I can understand it, but do I think that everything I perceive is a misapprehension? No. Not even on the subtle state of perceiving things that are empty as inherently existent. I'm still in the gross state. Whatever my opinions are about other people is who they are. That's pretty gross, in terms of believing our own mind. Okay, so the thing is, we don't even recognize the ignorance that clouds our mind. It's like a sick person who doesn't realize they're sick. It's there, it's operating, it's controlling you. But you don't even see that there's a problem. And in fact, you think if only the external world would change, everything would be fine. Okay? So I think one of the first things in Dharma practice that we confront is, that we're just not as smart as we thought we were. And that there's a lot of times when we are misperceiving, And the more we can really confront that, the more we become a suitable disciple of the Buddha, the more we become receptive to the Buddha's teachings. Because as long as we think, I am nearly omniscient and understand everything, then we aren't open to learning anything. Okay. So then the fourth of the four seals is nirvana is true peace. Oh, finally. We can talk about nirvana. I thought nirvana was a band. Nirvana's a band, samsara's a perfume. So samsara's a perfume. So if you play in the band, you can't smell the perfume. I guess that's it. Once we deeply understand the distorted nature of our mistaken perception within meditation, its control over us will begin to diminish gradually and naturally. And sometimes it is, something really unpleasant happening in our life that wakes us up, okay? Somebody that you dearly care for dies like that. They weren't, terminally, well, they were terminally ill, because terminal illness starts the moment after birth. But we're not aware of, approaching death. And there's no reason for these, this person I care about so much, for them to die today. And yet, there's going to be one day that they die. And it's amazing, as much as we have meditated on death, in our Lamrim meditations, we're so surprised when somebody dies. How could they? How could they? They were just here. And they were happy and they were cheerful. And I know, yes, everything is impermanent, moment by moment. And I know that birth is the cause of death. But how could that person die? I'm in shock. Yeah? Do you see that reaction in you? I mean, that's what happened when Geshe-la disappeared, isn't it? Everybody was in shock. How could Geshe-la disappear? And then when we found his body, wait, how could he die? He was just here. Yeah, he may have taught us about impermanence, but he didn't really mean it. Okay, according to us. But, this is how things exist, and this is, a very good example of the third type of dukkha, that we're under the control of afflictions and karma. Okay, so, sometimes it takes things like that for us to wake up and go, oh, yeah, the Buddha said that ignorance of the nature of reality is the cause of suffering. Ah, yes, my mind has ignorance. This is related to the suffering I'm experiencing. The Buddha said that all, conditioned phenomena is impermanent. Well, yes, of course. That's how somebody died. They're impermanent. There's nothing permanent in them, and we don't know when the causes and conditions to sustain their life are going to continue and when they discontinue. So, there's moments like this where we see, wow, my mind really is under the influence of afflictions and karma. Yeah. Otherwise, that's why I'm so shocked when things happen. Okay, let's get on to nirvana as true peace. We want to hear about peace now, right? But think about it, those moments where something happens and you finally get it and you say, the Buddha knew what he was talking about. I can verify that from my own experience now. When he said ignorance isn't bliss, that ignorance is the cause of misery, he's right. I have this example in my life right now. Yeah. So those are times when our refuge becomes so much clearer and so much more sincere. Yeah. So don't be afraid of those times. It's the time when we gain some wisdom. And the wisdom is the opposite of our ignorance. So why are we shocked and dismayed when our ignorance is shattered? If ignorance is the cause of our misery. Somebody dies. How could they die? They weren't supposed to. They're younger than, all these other old people who were supposed to die first. Yeah, that's how I really think. That's what's really going on in my mind. I think that. Is that true? No, that's stupid. And one part of me has known my whole life that young people can die before old people. But inside, what do I really believe? No. Or if it happens, it's to other people. It doesn't happen to the people that I care about. Okay, so and then all of a sudden you realize, what the Buddha taught is true. Yeah? And then your practice becomes much, much more sincere, and it becomes much easier. Okay, nirvana is true peace. Once we deeply understand the distorted nature of our mistaken perception within meditation, its control over us will begin to diminish gradually and naturally. As this happens, we become able to envision the possibility of gaining total freedom from such erroneous beliefs. Such freedom, complete liberation from the ignorance that grafts onto our mistaken view of the self-existence of phenomena. Yeah, this freedom is the only true freedom. Oh, it's the only true, lasting state of happiness and spiritual freedom, the only true peace, the only true liberation. Okay? So what we consider freedom, in samsara is very different than what Buddhists consider freedom. Okay, wow. We're on to another chapter. We are progressing. Okay, so the two types of selflessness. Now we're going to get into the big stuff. And if you think you weren't confused before, you will be now, because we're going to talk about the tenet systems. And if I were Jeffrey, I would stop the whole commentary, and for the next 5 years, we would study the tenet system. Then we would come back to this text. Yeah, but I'm not Jeffrey, so we're going to keep going, even though we won't understand so much. Okay, so the two types of selflessness. Before returning to the text of the Heart Sutra, let us look at selflessness through the eyes of different Buddhist schools so that we can attain a more refined understanding of emptiness as presented in the Heart Sutra. Okay, so why do we learn all these, the different tenet systems? Because it actually helps us refine our concept of what the wisdom is that we want to cultivate and what that wisdom realizes. Okay, as explained in a previous chapter, a belief in selflessness is an essential tenet of all Buddhist schools, but there is a wide variety of interpretations among them as to what exactly the term means. Within the Tibetan monastic curriculum, there is an entire genre of literature outlining in detail how each school views this subject. Within this literature, the various philosophical perspectives are ascribed to 4 main schools prevalent in ancient India. And the presentation of selflessness becomes progressively more subtle with each school, each progressive school. So these schools are, one, the Vaibhasika school. How's that translated? Great Exposition school. Second is Satantrika school, the Sutra school. The third is the Chittamatra, or mind-only school. And the fourth is the Madhyamaka, or middle way school. I use these Sanskrit terms, not the English translations. In general, Tibetan Buddhists follow the views of the Madhyamaka school. It's the highest one, and of course we're going to follow the highest one. Yeah, you think we're these Vaibhasikas who don't know what they're talking about? No, we are great middle way practitioners. It shows how much we've realized. -10. Okay. One might wonder, why is it then that so much time is spent studying the views of these other schools, how does it relate to the larger enterprise of liberation and awakening? Since the correct understanding of emptiness is crucial for success in eliminating the mental afflictions, it is important to be aware of the many ways in which we might stray from the path of right understanding. The views of the earlier schools represent ways in which Buddhists have fallen short of understanding the most profound implications of the Buddha's teachings on emptiness. Studying the tenets of these schools helps us avoid becoming stuck in what is only a partial understanding of the true nature of emptiness. It also gives us a greater appreciation for the profundity of the most subtle aspects. Of course, a correct intellectual view is no substitute for the direct realization of emptiness, which is non-conceptual, but it is vital in the task of approaching that realization. So to have a direct perception of emptiness, we need to first have a correct inferential or correct conceptual understanding of what emptiness is. So what His Holiness is explained here is quite important, that when you study the lower schools, think of it as I'm learning all the different ways in which I can have an incomplete idea of selflessness. Yeah. And I might be seeing some of my own ideas in the views of these lower schools and realize, yeah, I really think like these people do. Oh, well, why then is that called a lower view or an incomplete view? Okay, so when we study the lower schools, it can also put us in confront of our own wrong views or incomplete views. Okay, and usually when you start studying tenets, you start with the non-Buddhist schools. Yeah. So the Tibetans, refer to the ancient non-Buddhist Indian schools. Who are they? The Travakas, the what? Samkhyas. Oh yeah, the dear Samkhyas. The Mimamsakas. Yeah, there were a lot of them. Okay, and we may realize that, I hold some of those views. Yeah, and then we see how the next school up refutes those views. And then we have to look at our own views, our own opinions, and start to question them. And we might see that, believe it or not, some of them are not correct. Imagine that. How is that possible? I thought everything I believed was correct. Well, you're in for a big surprise. Okay, so it also, the presentation of these different schools really leads us gradually to a full understanding of selflessness or emptiness. The texts on tenets differentiate between two kinds of selflessness: the selflessness of the person and the selflessness of phenomena. Person here refers to our strong sense of the self, the I with which we refer to ourselves. Phenomena refers primarily to the mental and physical aggregates of the person, but includes other phenomena as well, like the table and the clock and so on. Among the four major Buddhist schools, the two earlier ones, the Vaibhasika and the Sautrantika, speak only of the importance of meditating on the selflessness of the person and do not accept any notion of the selflessness of phenomena. However, the two latter schools, the Chittamatra and the Madhyamaka, accept the doctrines of both the selflessness of the person and of phenomena. These schools would argue that a limited notion of selflessness, one referring only to the person, prevents us from eliminating the full range of obscurations and afflictions, as we shall see below. So although in firmly realizing the emptiness of person alone would be a tremendous achievement, it still falls short of complete liberation. Okay, then the next section is the Chittamatra interpretation. And this goes on for a while and gets into the whole topic of definitive and interpretive scriptures. So I think this might be a good pausing point. Yeah, you might have questions in the meantime. Yeah.
So I was wondering what you thought about, like if you were a Buddhist student and like you knew the tools that you have some tools to help you, lower the attachment to self or, whatever else, or, have more compassion. Is it thinking of others that is the impetus to work on yourself more? Or do you think it's like to realize that like your own suffering is so much and
I think that first it's our own dukkha that motivates us, because we do cherish ourselves more than others, yeah? So it's that generates the energy for practice first. Then later, as our mind opens and we look around, we say, hey, everybody's in that situation. Then the compassion motivates us to realize emptiness. So at first it's seeing our own dukkha, that's renunciation, yeah, aspiring for liberation. And then later when we have progressed, it becomes compassion and then bodhicitta.
What do you think about this internal pity party, like subconscious, like, oh, I don't deserve happiness, or I think that's going on sometimes. How do you get around that?
To realize that that's just one of the afflictions that we want to overcome. Yeah. That saying, oh, I don't deserve happiness, that is based on an ignorant view of the self. I don't deserve happiness. Why? Because I am inferior. Why am I inferior? Because I am inherently defective. Why am I inherently defective? Because God made me this way.
Thank you.
And then you look at all your Sunday school conditioning that thinks that you just came into the world, as inherently undeserving of happiness, even though everybody else is deserving of it. And you realize, what kind of nutty thought is that? Yeah, that has nothing to do with reality. And if somewhere lurking in your mind there's a thought, well, God made me that way, then you better question God. And why do you believe in a creator who is supposedly compassionate and creates suffering living beings? That's contradictory. How can such a thing possibly exist? Yeah, it doesn't exist. So what then is the source of all these wrong conceptions of self? Why do I think I don't deserve happiness? This is the ignorance grasping at a solid, permanent person. And that's what the Buddha says is the root, of our samsara. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Earlier, you mentioned that it's better to get out of samsara and be born in a pure land.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just a little unclear about samsara, pure land. Are they places or mental realms? How should I understand that?
I think both samsara and pure lands, but especially samsara. I mean, there's a physical place, but it is a mental realm as well. Yeah, because if you realize emptiness and start to purify the defilements, your body may be here, but how you perceive things, how you relate to them is going to change. The Pure Land, they say, for example, Amitabha's Pure Land, Sukhavati, they say was created by Amitabha's virtue. Yeah. Now, how that works, I haven't taken the physics class that explains that one yet. But it does have something to do with, when you have a completely pure mind, then you can create an environment that is really of great benefit to sentient beings. But the sentient beings have to have a particular state of mind to be born there and to even see that in the way. For example, Amitabha created Sukhavati. He sees it, everything is a manifestation of bliss and emptiness. Yeah. If I'm born in Sukhavati, I'll probably be born in one of those lotuses that takes eons to open. Knock, knock, knock. Can you open the lotus, please? No, knock, knock, knock. I've been in here a few eons. Please open the lotus. And then I have to realize, it's not somebody else that's keeping the lotus closed. This is my mind that created the karma. And the way I'm still thinking about things, my mind is not letting me be free of that karma. Okay. But then as you begin to understand emptiness, then how you see the Pure Land is going to change. Mm-hmm. So they say that there's 9 grades of lotuses in the Pure Land. And according to the karma you've created in your mental state when you're dying, you are born in one of those lotuses. The people who have high realizations, their lotuses open very quickly, and they live in Sukhavati. And the rest of us, we're in one of those lotuses that, like this. Come on, you can open. No. Okay. So something like that. But this is I think, something that is, it's difficult for us to understand. And actually, the relationship between the mind and karma and the external environment, and how things are empty, but there are still external objects. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, is Sukhavati a God realm that you're still not enlightened yet, or?
Yeah, and the God realms, those beings still have the fundamental ignorance. They haven't eliminated it. So you may be born in a God realm, and they say it's blissful for as long as that karma lasts. But when that karma ends and you realize that you're going down to the desire realm, our realm, then you really freak out, But, yeah, that karma ended, so as Serkam Rinpoche said when he went to the top of the Eiffel Tower, the only way to go from here is down. Yeah, so that's why renunciation, bodhicitta, and the realization of emptiness are so important.
His question is Sukhavati the God realm?
Oh, your question is Sugavati. No, it's not. Yeah, the God realm was what I just explained. It's still in the realm of samsara. It's just you have less suffering.
But Sukhavati is not in samsara.
Sukhavati is not in the God realm. If Sukhavati were in the God realm, it would be in the desire, it would be in the form or formless realm, which is in samsara. But Sukhavati was created by Amitabha's virtue, so it's not going to be something that is polluted by the ignorance, and thus in samsara. Okay, so when you're born in Sukhavati, let's say all the people who've created a lot of virtue and have really the aspiration for that, yeah, you still have that fundamental ignorance, and so you're still, as an individual, you still are not free from samsara because you haven't realized emptiness yet. But on the other hand, you aren't in samsara anymore because once you're born in Sukhavati, you will never be born again in samsara. Why? Because Sukhavati, the environment is so good that you're all the time, everything around you teaches you the Dharma. Okay. Mm-hmm.
The quote that you read earlier about creating, the mind is the creator of the world. Mm-hmm. How is that different than saying the mind imputes objects? All objects exist only through imputation. How is that different than creation?
Oh, very interesting. This is where the mind creates in the sense that nothing exists without being conceived and designated by mind. Okay. However, not everything the mind conceives and designates exists. Okay. So that's a big difference. We conceive and designate the boogeyman. Yeah, we conceive and designate the end of the world since the election. Do those things exist? Do you think the world's really going to end in the next 4 years? Or do you think something's going to continue on? Yeah, so, yeah, it isn't that just, oh, I thought it, therefore it exists. Because then we can just say, oh, I thought I'm enlightened, therefore I am. And that's when they take you to the psych ward. Okay. Uh-huh.
Venerable, what makes an action intentional?
The mental factor of intention.
What's that, Venerable?
Well, dear child, when you study the mind and awareness, the low-rig texts, they talk about 5 omnipresent mental factors, which means in every cognition, these 5 are present. And one of them is intention, you know? And so intention is kind of an intention. It's, you know, there's a formal definition. Anybody want to look it up quickly? You know, it's the mind that is going, it's not attention. Attention pays it, you know, registers the object. Intention is the desire to act. Okay, so you have an intention. Then you have other mental factors that arise together with that intention. Okay, so if I have the mental factor of intention, you know, to act, and anger arises in my mind, then my motivation for acting is going to be one of anger. If I have the mental factor of intention and the thought of generosity or the thought of trust in the 3 jewels, and so I want to make an offering, yeah, then I go and I make the offering. Then it's the mental factor of intention, and in the same mind state, you know, you have the mental factor of generosity and the mental factor of confidence in the 3 jewels. Okay, so any mental state, there's a primary mind, just the particular sense consciousness, and then there's these 5 omnipresent minds, and then there's a whole bunch of other mental factors that may arise. And this is the benefit of studying low rig. Okay, is you begin. It's so interesting, you know, to look at your mind when you can identify some of these mental factors that the Buddha identified.
Did you want the technical definition?
Did I what?
Did you want the definition of
Yes.
intention? It moves the primary consciousness and mental factors to the object.
Yes. Okay. It moves the primary consciousness, the particular sense consciousness, and whatever other mental factors are simultaneous with that, then it moves it to the object. Yeah. Or to, you know, and the object may be to do a particular action.
Oh, okay. I have Vasubandhu.
You have what?
Vasubandhu's definition
Okay.
that expands a little bit. It's the shaping of consciousness in relation to that which is good, bad, or neither, and it is activity of the mind.
Yeah, it's an activity of the mind. You looked at attention or intention?
Intention, my definition's from volume 2, and that's a Sangha's definition, not Vasubandhu's.
Okay, and they were brothers, but they didn't agree.
He just added the ethical factors that will.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, let's